Hello, everyone. Let me turn on my volume here. Actually, let me close my door too. All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Harriet Parker, and I'd like to call the June 27th, 2022 meeting of the Nevada Tribal Emergency Coordinating Council to order. It is 2 o'clock. Ms. Whipple, will you conduct the roll call, please?
Yes, one moment. Let me let some more people in the from the waiting room in. All right, here we go. Harriet Parker.
Present.
Marla Stanton. Marian Perez. Alfreda Jake. Ross Rivera.
Here.
Jackie Conway. Emily Gould. Dwayne Masters Sr.
Here.
Don Peltz. Daniel Thayer.
Here.
Tanya Reynolds. Sokaki Charlie. Tashina Jim.
Present.
Kenneth Quiner.
Here.
Fabian.
For the record, David Fogerson.
Present.
Samantha Laddick.
Here.
We don't have quorum yet. Is there anyone that joined that I didn't call?
Looks like Keaton is here. Watch your tribe.
Marian Perez. Alfreda Jake. Jackie Conway.
Present.
And we have quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Whipple. And I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to participate today. I know many, if not all of you, have made a huge effort to be here with us this afternoon, and we are grateful for that. So thank you so much. As a friendly reminder, please double check that your microphone is on mute unless you are actively speaking. Also, when speaking, if you can identify yourself before you speak, in order to assist the staff with minutes, that would be helpful. With that, we will close out agenda item number 1 and move on to agenda item number 2, public comments. This is for discussion only. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the co-chairs. Comments will not be restricted based on viewpoint. To provide testimony during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in anytime after 1:30 by dialing the number provided on the agenda. When prompted, enter the meeting ID and participant ID, also provided on the agenda. When asked to provide public comment, please press *6 to unmute your phone and *6 again when your comments are complete. Please be advised that the YouTube stream will be between 60 to 90 seconds behind the live meeting. If you would like to present a public comment, please call in using the number provided on the agenda to hear the meeting live. While we wait for the lag time to catch up, are there any comments, any public comments there in Carson City?
Madam Co-Chair Dave Fullerson.
Yes, sir.
So I had a great visit last week with Ross and Robin out there on the Ely Shoshone tribe. Did a kind of a rural Nevada tour and was able to stop in and spend some time with them and discuss some issues, and was great to hear about the Intech staff that we have here at DM had beat me out there already with Crystal from FEMA. So it's nice going out and seeing old friends. It's also nice to see people doing good work.
Wow, nice. That was a good visit. Are there any public comments on the phone? Did anyone or any other in the room there?
No, Co-Chair Harriet. No written or any comments on YouTube.
Are there any other public comments in Zoom land?
Madam Co-Chair, I got one other one. Sorry about that. Seeing Don Pelt show up just to remind me also. Washington County did a nice job of taking their community to the Emergency Management Institute for an integrated emergency management class. And they involved the Pyramid Lake Tribe in that as well. And so they had a good contingent, including a tribal chairperson. I believe he was a chairperson, he was on the committee, the tribal fire chief and a tribal fire captain that all attended with us. So it was very nice to see that representation from Washoe County to include the tribal nations with them. That was really cool to see.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you to them. That was great. Any other comments before I close out this agenda item? All right, hearing none, I will close out agenda item number 2 and move on to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of minutes. This is for discussion and possible action. The NTEC will review and discuss the minutes of the March 16th, 2022 NTEC meeting. The NTEC will determine whether to approve the meeting minutes. You should all have a copy of the draft minutes from the March 16th, 2022 meeting. And thank you to Ms. Whipple for all your work in putting these together. Like I said in the email, that they were a beast. So I appreciate it. Members, please review the minutes, and when you're ready, I'll take a motion to amend or approve, please.
This is Ken for the Washoe Tribe.
Yes, sir.
Minutes have been reviewed. I see no problems and move that they be approved.
All right, thank you, sir. We have a motion from, from Ken Weiner. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Ross Rivera, Ely Shoshone.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any discussions on the motion? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Do you have any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion passes. All right, we will close out agenda item number 3 and we'll move on to agenda item number 4. This is a discussion on the status of the Nevada Division of Emergency Management, Homeland Security's efforts to assist our tribal nations. This is for discussion only, provided by Co-Chair Chief Fogerson. DEM-HS is interested in hearing feedback on the status of DEM-HS programs as they relate to tribal nation protection, preparedness, response, mitigation, and recovery efforts for emergency management, homeland security, and public health preparedness. The NTEC members are encouraged to discuss ways that DEM-HS can improve our efforts to better support their needs. Chief Fogerson, I will hand it over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Dave Fullerson for the record. Just like the agenda item says, we've been talking internally that through COVID, we probably did more talking to you instead of listening to you, because of all the efforts that are going on and all our stuff. So now we want to take a step back and ask you, how are we doing? What could we be doing better? And not just the tribal liaison staff we have with Josie and Jay, but how do you need things better from us, from our grant division, from our fiscal division, from our preparedness division? How can we help better? And so I just want to turn the time over to anyone that has ideas on what you think we should be doing that we're not doing, or that we are doing to you, that we should stop doing to you, because that's just equally as important as what we should be doing is what we shouldn't be doing. So just want to have that free-flowing discussion on how we can get better to serve your needs best.
Would anyone like to open up for discussion to start?
Not everyone has to talk at once. Yeah, I hear great things every place I stop and talk to someone. I always hear great things about what Jane, Josie, or Crystal from FEMA are doing. So I really appreciate that feedback, but we can't get better unless we know what we should be doing that we're not doing to help you, or what is incorrect we're doing. So looking for those things, not looking for we're doing a great job, but hey, if you tried this worked better, or we keep asking this question, we don't get this answer. Looking for those kinds of things. How do we make us better to serve our communities? Okay. You must be knocking it out of the park on everything, but I know we're not. But I know sometimes in public meetings, people are afraid to say stuff. So please say something to John, Backendall, or myself, so that way we can make the system better for you. And sorry, Ken, I just saw you unmuted. Did you have something?
Well, yeah, I was going to bring up just letting the crickets talk for a little bit while I pull my notes from last. This is Ken Quine for the record. Sorry about that. From Washington Tribe. We had a very interesting phone call with FEMA last week, where they were kind of asking a question similarly about, it's focused on grants. And one of the big concerns is that emergency management, as we all know, it doesn't just function on its own. Most tribes where emergency management's a dual hat assignment, a collateral duty, short-staffed, and the grants that are available are critical to keep these programs running. And tribes, we get things going, and then funding runs out, and then what you've built dies away. And so a consistent way of maintaining a funding flow to maintain emergency management is an ongoing challenge. And timing, I know, with coming out of COVID, and you guys are chasing FEMA's deadlines, and we're all chasing every deadline and every short-staffed. Some of these things that are coming through, these grants coming through short fused with just a few weeks to get things processed, figured out, and routed, is not beneficial, because we end up looking, there's not going to be funding for next year's programs if we don't jump through hoops and figure it out in a hurry. And so timing of funding, anything we can do to figure out how to make a more sustainable funding flow for up and coming emergency management programs would be very helpful. I know you guys are working on it, but if we could just keep that energy focused, because without people doing their jobs, we're not going to have anything in the future.
Great point there, Ken. And I had the discussion last week with Clark County and the Fusion Center in Clark County about that very same issue. So very pointed, and we got to start working maybe with some of our legislative partners to help us with that on the federal level. So great item to raise there, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Ken, this is John Backendall from DEM. Josie's going to talk about this as well, but this fall we're coordinating workshops regionally as well. So for the area you're in, it'll be here in Carson City. And then we're going to go out to Elko as well as down to Las Vegas. And we're looking for a larger tribal participation than we've had in the past. And by the end of that week of that workshop, you're going to go through everything you need to have your EMPG application prepared for the spring. I know that's only one part, but it's something we're taking an effort in and trying to help all of our partners be a little more prepared for the EMPG side. So when you see that and you hear Josie talk about it, take that into consideration to your question, because that's something we can control right now. And we're hoping that we can make that a little easier for you guys in preparation for next year's application.
Well, thank you. And that's probably, that's very exciting because we got to get out a year ahead of time, like you guys are doing. And I struggle with, because I think probably last summer you guys were doing the exact same thing, but then as the sole person in emergency management, when something comes up, you don't have time to think about anything else but the emergency you're dealing with at the time. And so if people don't make it, I would encourage those to your first session, shake their cages, because are they dealing with something on their home front that they're that's got their full attention and they just missed it and that the boat has sailed, or is there a second opportunity to come back and get that help? Thank you. That'd be helpful.
Yeah, this is John Backendall again. We're always willing to help, but these workshops will be assigned 1 week in each location. It starts with the THIRA, goes through the JRA from health. There'll be a lot of DEM information in between, from grants, finance, recovery, and mitigation. And then we end doing the integrated preparedness plan and the EMPG work plan, so that you are completely prepared for that application. So if you don't make it, it's a big loss for the agency or jurisdiction that doesn't make it, but there's always help available from our staff to make sure that we can assist you along the process. But the THIRA and the IPP are required by the EMPG application to attend.
This came for the record. Thank you. That's and if we miss one session, you said you're traveling the state. Is there anything that prohibits? I missed this one, but I'm going to get to the next one. Is that allowable?
It's absolutely allowable, sir, by all means. If you don't like your partners here, join us out in Elko.
Much a prettier environment too. Bye.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay, well, don't be strangers calling John or I with any ideas you got, how we make your lives easier for you, because that's what we're here to do. So please reach out to us if you have any ideas on what we're not doing that we could be doing to help you, or what we are doing that's hurting some of your efforts. The more collaborative and collective we are, the better off we're going to be, especially when we start doing some of those things like Ken was talking about at their federal delegations. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. And I know I'm grateful for the help that we've received, that the Las Vegas Paiute Tribe has received from DEM, everything from the PPE, the help with our policies and plans. I know right now we're going to, I've just started on the working group for our hazard mitigation plan. We are an annex under Clark County, so we just started that. So I may be reaching out to you guys for a little help with that. And I know Ryan, I think he's also in mitigation. So I chatted with him a little bit, so I will be reaching out. So, but thank you. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments regarding agenda item number 4?
Yeah, this is Ross Rivera, Ely, Shoshone. With the latest visit from Dave and from other partners, a lot of my questions have been answered, so I didn't speak on this, but I think the help is there and they're assisting me, and I hope that everybody's taking advantage of these visits they're doing throughout the state. I appreciate it.
I agree, sir. I know there's been times when they've come down here and I've cleared everyone's schedule to make sure that, that we could utilize as much time as they would give us, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you for your comments. All right, well, if there are nothing else, I will close out agenda item number 4 and move on to agenda item number 5. Actually, it's, I believe, agenda item number 5. Are we going to table that? I believe Mr. Banuelos is not with us. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is Shreen Whipple, for the record. He's not going to be able to make this meeting.
All right, so we'll table agenda item number 5 until our next meeting. And we will move on to agenda item number 6, which is an update on tribal health preparedness efforts. This is for discussion only. This will be provided by Donnell Allen, Public Health Preparedness Program Manager. Mr. Allen will update the NTEC on the Division of Public and Behavioral Health's tribal health preparedness efforts surrounding the COVID-19 response and recovery. Mr. Allen, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. For us from here in the Public Health Preparedness Program, for myself, most of you probably know Melinda Southard, who was our previous program manager here. Melinda has taken her talents to her next journey. She is the executive director for the Patient Protection Commission now. So I am the new program manager here for PHP within the Division of Public and Behavioral Health. So as far as the recovery activities, just to touch up and close the gap on some of the things on the previous item that Dr. Southard updated everyone on. As you know, Directive 11 ended with that. Crisis Standards of Care was also deactivated just last month. So that's an update on those activities. And then the Rural Preparedness Summit, we just held the Rural Preparedness Summit earlier this month here in June, where we did have an opportunity to get a presentation from Dan Thayer and his team there on some of the COVID activities and after action reports from the Reno Sparks Indian Colony. The other thing is we continue to work with DEM on the PPE distribution out of the warehouse. You guys know the warehouse is, all the PPE is now down south, but we are continuing to process those resource requests through WebEOC and a limited amount of tests here in the north that we also maintain. So any needs for ACON FlowFlex at home tests, we still have those available that you can request through that normal requesting process, as well as Binex tests for any entity who has maintained their CLIA waiver. The update about that particular CLIA waiver is if you have not paid your renewal for the year, that's something that you'll want to look into with HCQC here in DPBH, just to make sure that that waiver is active if you intend on utilizing the Binex Now test. And then we also have our IPPW coming up next month. If we can get any of your training and exercise ideas or needs to Jay and Josie, and they can communicate that to us so we can make sure we continue to work with you all as partners and meet your needs as you have them. And that is in the report for us here at DPBH PHP.
Mr. Allen, I do see Mr. Pelt, you have your hand up. Did you have a question for Mr. Allen?
Yes, I do. On the CLIA waiver for the Binex test, is that covered? We just had to file for our state EMS license, a lab licensure for both COVID and to do the glucose finger tests. So we now have that license. Is that the one you're referring to?
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, it's actually going to be a separate test. That particular CLIA waiver that you want to make sure is active is kind of specific to those COVID Binex point of care tests that you would use at your facility for testing for COVID. So if you're not sure, I would suggest that you get back with your licensing representative, whoever that was in that process, and they can clarify that information for you.
Very good. Thank you.
No problem.
Or we can contact your office if necessary, right?
You could do that for sure, and we can follow up for you if need be. Absolutely.
Thank you.
No problem.
Do you have any other questions for Mr. Allen? So I do have a question for you. If you can't answer this, maybe someone on the call can answer for me. I came across some Binex Now test kits. I just wrote it down on a piece of paper. I thought I took a picture of it, but I couldn't find it. I know that the expiration dates were extended. How far are they extended? And because I have test kits from March 27th, 2021. So my question is, are they still good? Because I know they were extended. I don't know if you can answer that for me, or someone can check on that for me. I appreciate it.
Sure, I'll try to get back with you for an exact date, but I can tell you if you have a March 21 expiration printed, it is likely that you have reached that final extension, which is 12 months, is what it has been. We would check the specific lot number to verify that. So if you want to just reach out to me after outside of this, we'll certainly follow up for you. But all of the printed expiry dates have been extended at this point, 12 months.
Perfect. That I appreciate that. Our nurse just retired, and that was one of the things we forgot to ask her before she left. And so I appreciate that, and I will definitely reach out. I didn't get down all of our lot numbers, but I'll double check that as well. It's in another office, so I'll check on that, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Allen? Okay, hearing no other questions, thank you, sir. We will close out agenda item number 6, and we will move on to agenda item number 7. This is updates from the DEM, HS, NTEC staff. This is for discussion only, provided by Josie Burnett and Jay Martin, both from DEM, HS. Ms. Burnett and Mr. Martin will provide NTEC with updates on IMAS, sat phone SIM card delivery, the NIMS framework, and fall workshops. Ms. Burnett, would you like to start us off, please?
Yes. Hello, Josie Burnett for the record. I'll be covering for myself and Jay. Jay is currently out finishing up transporting all of our tribal PPE from the northern warehouse, transporting it to ITCN, as well as distributing it to, I believe, 4 additional tribes that still needed their PPE packages. With that being said, we do have tons of PPE still left. So if there are any tribes out there that would like additional supplies, we do have a ton left over. Moving into these next items, just a reminder regarding the IMAS, Interstate Mutual Aid System. We're encouraging our tribes to opt into this system. It's a mutual aid resource sharing system between tribes, state and local agencies, and our surrounding community partners. Currently, we have 5 tribes that have opted in, which include Washoe, Reno, Las Vegas, Yarrington, and Pyramid. Each tribe formulates a resolution, and that needs to be submitted to DEM and the governor's office. The SIM card deliveries and the National Incident Management System, the NIMS preparedness framework documents, those were distributed during Jay's and Crystal's with FEMA, their tribal tour back in spring. We do have additional SIM cards to distribute. I think there's a few, but most of those SIM cards for the satellite phones are coming up on expiring for their renewal subscription in July. So we're looking at purchasing additional, renewing that yearly subscription. So we'll be distributing those, and then moving forward regarding the communication boxes, all the additional equipment in those boxes that each of the tribes have, we're looking at providing some training so that the tribes are more, learning how to use those equipment in the boxes more efficiently. And then John pretty much touched on the fall workshops coming up. Again, it's the DEM 2022 fall workshops. Those are going to be in Elko, Carson, and Clark County. If everybody wants to write down the dates, Elko is going to be September 12th through the 16th. Carson City is September 26th through the 30th. And then Clark County is October 3rd through the 7th. And we currently have the agenda, so we'll be distributing those out via email. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Burnett. Were there any questions for Ms. Burnett? I do have a question. Our communication box here in Las Vegas is at our police department, and Lieutenant Dawkins, who was my partner, retired last month. So, was it last month? Golly, it's so fast. Yeah, last month. So I don't know, did we get our SIM card? Or do you know?
We haven't made it out over there yet. Jay hasn't made the southern tours yet.
I wasn't sure, and I know he would have talked to me about it, but he was getting short timers. He was, as the time got closer, he was getting ready to head on out. So, so I know there's a couple things that he's missed, and he's out of the country right now. I told him when he gets back, I've got a lot of questions for him. And that was going to be one of them. So I appreciate that. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Burnett?
Yeah, this is Ross from English Shoshone. I believe there's issues with the radios that we have, the 800 megahertz radios and the channels.
Yeah, it seems that when we did our tours, Jay, most of the feedback he got was the radios were having several issues that we needed to have checked out. So we'll definitely be checking up on that. Most of the equipment hasn't been touched, or some tribes don't even, couldn't find their communications box. So it's definitely been a big issue. So.
Hey Ross, this is John Backett for the record. Could you email us and let us know what issues you're having? That way we could get it addressed.
Just can't get anything. Can't change channels, or it's locked, and I don't know if somebody had put a lock code on there, or we don't have that unlock code.
Okay. Want to send it to us? Are you able to just send that to us, Ross, and Melissa and her team will take care of that?
Sure, if somebody wants to give me the address where to send it, and I'll do so.
All right, we'll reach out to you and get you our address and who the point of contact is to get that sent to us.
Okay, then my second question, I think Dave alluded to this when he was here, is this, or it might have been Jay, but the training that's dated for ELCO for preparedness, I believe there will be funding to send people. Is that true or not?
Is that the
For the workshop?
The workshop, yeah.
Yeah, we'll look into assisting with that, Ross.
Okay, I'm just curious if there is, I think we need to put that out too. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Pelt, I see your hand is raised. Do you have a question?
Well, I just wanted for Ross, when the radios do that, it's usually because the radio shop got notification to turn off the service. For some reason, it could have been, maybe got reported stolen or lost. And they will do what they call bricking it, and they'll just turn it. So the first person that tries to key it up locks everything down. It's real easy to fix though, once you get it over to the radio shop in Reno. That's all. I just wanted to let you know it's not a major deal. It's just somehow something got crossed up.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
That makes sense. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. That actually made me think of another question. It's been a while, and I like to blame everything on COVID. But it seems like we used to have a drill or something every year, or maybe twice a year, I'm not sure, where we would power everything up and we'd have to call in between certain hours. Is that something that is in the works to get back on that schedule again, or? Is that something we need to work on to make better, or what are your thoughts?
DT, are you still on the line? I think that was something the public health preparedness used to do.
Yeah, we actually, you're right. If that, I would have to check the list. I'm pretty sure that's probably something you're talking about. We are looking to get those comms drills back up and running. And it is a safe blame on COVID that those drills kind of, fell apart for everybody. So, but we are in the process of getting those back up and running. So, just look out for that communication coming out here soon.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
And DT, anything we can do to help with that? Because we have a contact here in the shop, so anything we can do to help you, we're on board with that.
Absolutely. Appreciate that.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation and comments. I appreciate it. Just before we move on, are there any other questions for Ms. Burnett before we close out this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, we will close out agenda item number 7, and we will move on to agenda item number 8. This is an update from the Nevada Indian Commission. This is for discussion only, provided by Sari Nichols. Ms. Nichols will provide NTEC with an update of Nevada Indian Commission activities related to the support of tribal emergency management and health clinics. Ms. Nichols, I will turn the floor over to you, ma'am.
Hi, Harriet. It's actually nice to finally see you. I've never seen you. So, and I'm sorry, I do not have my camera on. I don't have a camera right now. So, hello, my name is Sari Nichols. I'm with the Nevada Indian Commission, and I'm honored to be here with everybody. I'm sorry, Stacy Monteith is not here at the moment. She had a meeting with some legislators up in Las Vegas. At this time, the Nevada Indian Commission does not have an update that pertains to this meeting.
That was easy.
That was easy. I'm listening and getting caught up on everything. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, even though we didn't have an update, was there any questions for Ms. Nichols from anyone? All right, hearing none, thank you, ma'am. That closes out agenda item number 8, and we will move on to agenda item number 9. This is an update from FEMA Region 9. This is for discussion only, provided by Crystal Harjo. Ms. Harjo will provide the NTEC with an overview of FEMA Region 9 all hazards, activities, and upcoming events. This will include training, tribal partner engagements, tribal consultation opportunities, and outreach activities at the regional and Nevada-specific level. Ms. Harjo, the floor is yours. Is Crystal not here with us?
We're reaching out to her right now to find out. I know she was in travel status for FEMA. We just thought she'd be here. So John's gonna reach out to her. So if we table this item, go to the next one, and then if she pops on, then we'll go back to this one. Ma'am?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. We'll table agenda item number 9 for the moment, and we'll move to agenda item number 10. This is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessing functional needs integration. This is for discussion only, provided by Heather Lafferty, CDC Disability Preparedness Specialist. Ms. Lafferty will provide an overview of how DEMHS's efforts to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion, along with accessing functional needs, are included in all parts of emergency management. Ms. Lafferty, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Heather Lafferty. My pronouns are she, her, and my visual description for anyone listening while completing other tasks or maybe with the visual impairment is I'm a 43-year-old white female adult with unruly brownish hair, wearing a blue shirt and glasses. I have attached to my face with a chain so I don't misplace them multiple times a day. Thank you for letting me join in today and tell you about my new role with the Division of Emergency Management. Just a bit of background. I have 20 plus years experience in public health and physical security operations as a training coordinator and liaison. But it wasn't my experience which compelled me to leave my corporate job for government work. It was my title, the title which has always been the most important to me of wife and mother, because while I have been working to support my family and further myself in my professional career, the true mission of the past 19 years of my life has been spent advocating for individuals with cognitive impairments like my daughter. My daughter, who gave me permission to discuss her today, prefers identity first language to describe herself as a Down syndrome person. You know, in that infamous March when COVID-19 shut the entire world down, my husband was just finishing his last round of chemo, and my daughter, who received all her support services through the school district, were left trying to adapt and figure out quickly, okay, what now? One thing that became very apparent to my family very quickly were resources are finite. And overall, the response to COVID-19 highlighted not just in our society some real inequities, but within the disability community and our preparedness efforts. We are fortunate to have leadership in the Division of Emergency Management who recognized these gaps and took immediate action to help close them. That's where I come in. I'm the new Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Access and Functional Needs Coordinator. I know you're thinking that's a lot of big buzzwords, but I want to go through this short presentation to really explain what those words look like in an actionable process. Access and functional needs refers to individuals with and without disabilities who may need additional assistance because of any condition that may limit their ability to act in an emergency. Who might this include? It's actually a pretty expansive group, including people with disabilities, ethnic minorities, indigenous populations, people with limited English proficiency, children, aging populations, single working parents, pregnant women, households without access to transportation, and people with limited financial resources. Using broad terms like vulnerable, underserved, and minorities has been a barrier in the past to effective inclusion in the design and implementation of disaster-related policies and plans, because they're really just too broad and don't give us the what of the functional needs these communities will actually need to have met during an emergency. If we want our mitigation and preparedness, response, and recovery programs to really be equitable, we need a framework that makes equity accessible to our emergency managers so that they can make their preparedness efforts equitable for the whole community. To accomplish this, we are going to build and start using the CMIST framework. Couple things to note, accessibility is everyone's responsibility. Accessibility is always within the scope. The best teams have a shared mental model of the world. And while the CMIST framework in its simplest form is a tool to guide our planning and help us operationalize the 5 basic functional needs that need to be addressed in an emergency, its truest power is helping the communities share that mental model of accessibility and make it actionable. So if we apply the CMIST framework of communications, maintaining health, independence, support, safety, and self-determination, and transportation in a practical example, it would look something like, take me for instance. If I'm forced to evacuate my home in the middle of the night without my glasses, food, medications, or time to pack some necessities, this is going to impact several functional needs that we have identified through CMIST. Not having access to my glasses is going to mean I can't read emergency messages or announcement. And it is now going to limit my independence because I can't drive without my glasses, which in turn has now affected my ability to self-transport. Not having access to my medications means I'm not going to be able to successfully maintain my health for longer than 48 hours. Not being able to pack a bag means I also don't have the hygiene items I'm going to need to maintain my health. But for my daughter, without her glasses, it would be even worse. She would be legally blind and would need complete support to communicate, navigate her environment. She would lose most of her independence. She also has a gastrointestinal tube or a feeding tube, for those not familiar with that she's fed through, which requires a special prescription formula. And if she didn't have access to that within 24 hours, she would quickly begin to deteriorate. Now, nationally speaking, most current plans would want to separate me, her primary support person, from my daughter and put her in a medical shelter or possibly an institution during the emergency. But using the CMIS frame, this will help us work through and plan to meet these basic functional needs of my family and our whole community. Maybe the plan initially in the first 24 hours of an emergency for something like this scenario would be we have done something as simple as and as thoughtful as having magnifying glasses at our shelters and materials and important information that need to be disseminated in large print or multiple languages. We have prepared accessibility kits to help aid our community in their communication for anyone who has lost their assistive technology that they require to communicate. We have prepared and have contracts with pharmacies and third parties to provide resources almost immediately to meet these functional needs. You know, my daughter lives within and is a part of her community, and she thrives there every day. She shouldn't be separated from her community unnecessarily, and also taking up valuable spots in a medical shelter when she's capable of maintaining her health if she just had access to prescription formula and an environment, you know, that was temperature controlled. Some other actions we could take to assist in maintaining our community's independence are simply ensuring they are not separated from their mobility devices in an emergency. You know, having assistive technology they need to communicate. Don't separate them from their support people or their service animals. If my service animal is how I can locate and use the restroom independently, and you don't allow me to have that, now, not only have I lost some of my dignity and independence, which I'm used to having, but we're going to need to find someone in the shelter to assist with this task, which is placing a greater burden on the staff and the shelter manager. So using this framework, it also helps us to prepare for situations like maybe they have lost their caregiver in the emergency or had their routines interrupted and are experiencing confusion, or they're victims of abuse and are going to need to have their physical safety concerns met. CMIS is the framework and the tool we are going to use in all of our programs to build true resilience. So let's talk real quick about what accessibility really looks like. When we get down to the specifics, it's a range of seating options, some with armrests, some without in our meeting spaces, our training spaces, and our shelters. It's having quiet spaces and scent-free spaces, ramps, content warnings, and accurate captioning and transcripts. We really know from experience if equity and accessibility isn't included in the design phase, then the end state is rarely equitable and accessible. So my mission is to be in the rooms where preparedness is happening and help train and support emergency managers and communities throughout the state on the how-to of incorporating access and functional needs. So let's dive into the good stuff and talk about the actions the Division of Emergency Management are going to take to further the mission of inclusion. First, we are currently crafting a 5-year access and functional needs strategic plan, which will state the whole community philosophy, mission, and vision. Then we're going to live the disability motto of nothing about us without us by building a coalition of community partners and subject matter experts and stakeholders to show us the best practices and supports that have already been developed and are working in their own communities and how we can fuse our efforts with theirs. We're going to work towards accessibility throughout the development of our plans, like our mass care plans, and help provide resources and guidance to our tribal partners so they can do the same. Once we have that feedback and guidance from our communities that we're collaborating with on what should be included, then we need to go out and build the accessibility kits that they need, which include everything from something as simple as we talked about magnifying glasses to screen readers and other assistive technology, which are ready to deploy during an emergency. We are working towards the development of CMIST response teams at the county jurisdictional level. So we have emergency managers, first responders, and community members who are trained and prepared to respond to meet the functional needs of their community in a disaster. And we would love an opportunity to partner with the tribal nations to provide guidance on how the tribal nations could also launch CMIST response teams in their own communities. And we are developing and joining other pioneers in the emergency management profession by having a dedicated emergency operations center position for access and functional needs as part of command staff. So people with disabilities and access and functional needs always have their voice heard during an activation. You know, my purpose in leaving corporate America and starting this equity and preparedness journey is not to be the you should have person or you absolutely need to person. You know, that is not effective. It's to be the here's how we can person. My mission is finding the resources, making the connections, and being a sounding board and support for often overworked emergency managers and community leaders. Anytime you want to sit down together and figure out the how of whole community preparedness, I will figure out a way to make myself available for you. So please take down my information and reach out via email or phone at any time. And thank you for letting me explain just a little bit about our preparedness efforts at the Division of Emergency Management today.
Well, thank you, Ms. Lafferty. I really appreciate that. And I take that to heart because when we were working on our plan here at Las Vegas Paiute Tribe, we made sure to include those in the wheelchair, but what we failed to realize was all the different types of wheelchairs there are. And luckily we found that out in planning and drilling and not, you know, when it was truly needed during an emergency. So I really appreciate this. And your contact information is part of the packet that you sent. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is. It's in there. It's in the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Lafferty?
Yeah, this is Ross Rivera once again. Working with the fire department, being EMT. Sometimes when the caregiver or other people are not around is patient identification and identifying the special needs of that patient. So maybe an outreach to these patients and maybe it's already been done, but with something simple card or something saying what their needs are, what they would need to have would help the emergency responders tremendously.
Yes, thank you. And the emergency responders feedback with, especially, our access and functional need patrons is extremely important. So we are hoping to hold some forums and discussions and work groups with emergency, our front boots on the ground, first responders, so that we can get their feedback too, and we can develop that training.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for your comments, Mr. Rivera. I really appreciate it. It's very helpful. Any other questions for Ms. Lafferty?
Madam Co-Chair, Dave Fulgerson for the record.
Yes, sir.
I just want to kind of put some other thoughts out here that, we saw through COVID a lot of times where we all missed the mark on these populations. And these populations includes every single one of us in this meeting for anything we have. Just like Heather said, if I don't have my glasses on, I ain't getting anywhere. So when we start talking diversity, equity, inclusion, and access functional needs, there's political connotations to that based upon people's beliefs. But what we really have to be able to get to is, how do we take care of everyone in the community? Everybody deserves the same effort from us. And so one of the things we're really pushing here at the division is we want to make these components part of our everyday mission. When we looked at the Caldor evacuation, they didn't have plans for what they're going to do with the homeless people, for how they're going to get evacuated, or the people without transportation, or what they're going to do with them after the disaster, how to get them back to their community. So it's something as simple as that. We want to make sure that we don't ever miss the mark here in Nevada. And I think through COVID, we missed a mark a few times. And if we go all the way back to Katrina, that really showed a failure in our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And so the people that are hurting pre-disaster are really hurting post-disaster. And you look at DEI, think about rural Nevada, think about on our tribal reservations, think about people who live in multiple generations in a house. It's all those different things that we need to make sure that our plans are addressed for. And obviously we're the state, so we're not the doers. We're just the good idea fairies. But I want to try to get all the good idea fairies I can together. So that way then when Ross calls up for some help, or Danny Thayer calls up for help, or Don calls up for help, we have the right people to answer those questions. That way we embed this in our culture, and that it's not, we're just taking care of the people that look like us, that are in the room with us when decisions made, but we're taking care of our community, because that's what we do in Nevada. And that's very important to us here at the division. So bringing Heather on board is fantastic. And then Governor's Office of Disability is going to hire another employee that will be dedicated to us as well to help Heather. And then we just met, John and I and Heather have all had different discussions with the Office of Minority Health at the Health and Human Services Director's Office about how we embed them into some of our processes as well. Because it's not about me without me. And we got to make sure that that is a big component of what we do moving forward. So having Heather here, it looks like she's been here 2 years. She's been here, I think this is her 4th week, and she's already built a strategic plan and moving steps forward. So I think we're on the right path for our future.
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I'm truly grateful for your comments. They're definitely needed. Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you, Ms. Lafferty. I really appreciate that. And with that, I will close out agenda item number 10, and we'll move on to agenda item number 11. This is Nevada Public Bodies updates. This is for discussion only. Tribal representatives appointed to the following Nevada public bodies may provide an update on their role with each public body, as well as initiatives and projects that may impact Nevada tribes. First up, we have the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee, provided by Co-Chair Chief Fulgerson. Chief Fulgerson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. Our last Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee, and I can do all 3 of these at once: the Nevada Resilience Advisory Committee, the Nevada Commission on Homeland Security Finance Committee, and the Nevada Commission on Homeland Security. All 3 of those last meetings were all focused on the Homeland Security grant process. NRAC took us about 5 hours to go through all the grant applications we had. believe we had like $16 million worth of grant asks for $4 million, $4.85 million to give out. And so a very collaborative process going through that to decide where to spend those dollars. And I want to remind our tribal nations that you can also go for Homeland Security dollars directly to FEMA. So that way then we can spread that wealth maybe a little further along and make sure that we're taking care of everyone's needs. Anybody who doesn't think that you have Homeland Security needs on a tribal reservation in rural Nevada, we really got to look at the domestic violence extremism issue, the gold mining issues, the lithium mining issues. Those are all direct Homeland Security concerns that are probably in the neck of the woods of most of our tribal nations. And so those are areas where we'd also help find some additional funding for you. The other part on the Nevada Commission on Homeland Security, I'm proud to announce that the ITCN has provided me a recommendation for Harriet Parker to be assigned to the Governor's Homeland Security Commission. So we've given Harriet the paperwork to apply for that position, and I'm going to ask the governor to appoint her once that paperwork's in place. In a report pending any questions. Congratulations, Harriet.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And the vote of confidence, I really appreciate it. And thank you for the update on all three. I was just looking at this and thinking, gosh, I should have said, can you update all three of them instead of doing them individually? So thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Chief Fogerson regarding any of the three updates that he provided? Okay, hearing none. Next, we'll move on to agenda item 11D, which is the Nevada State Emergency Response Commission, provided by Lance Chandler. Mr. Chandler, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Harriet. Lance Chandler for the record. For CERC, we've been working with Josie on getting NTEC as a grant eligible agency through the CERC grants. It is grant season. We're doing the United We Stand grant and the mid-cycle HMEP currently. Our next meeting is July 14th, where we will be reviewing and approving all of those grants. And there is a new staff member for CERC who is a returning staff member and is picking up and moving CERC forward very well. So pending any questions, end of report.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Mr. Chandler? None. Thank you, sir. Next, we'll move on to E, which is Nevada Interstate Mutual Aid Committee, provided by Eric Wilson. Mr. Wilson, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Eric Wilson of DEM for the record with an update on the last IMAC meeting. The last IMAC meeting was held on June 15th, where it was officially announced that the Washoe Tribe of California and Nevada had opted into the system and became the 5th tribal nation to opt in. The committee also approved as amended the meeting minutes from December, the bylaws, the policies and procedures, and the IMAS reimbursement forms. A fiscal report, a year-end fiscal report and information on IMAC and EMAC real-world deployments requested through the system over the past fiscal year was also presented to the committee. End of report.
Sir, are there any questions for Mr. Wilson? Okay, hearing no questions. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I appreciate your update.
Thank you.
I will close out agenda item number 11 and we'll move on to agenda item number 12. This is a discussion of potential legislative requests for the 2023 session. This is for discussion only, provided by co-chair Chief Fogerson. The NTEC will be briefed on any forecasted legislative changes for the 2023 session related to the emergency management and homeland security. Chief Fogerson, sir, you have the floor.
Thanks, ma'am. Dave Fogerson for the record. I just wanted to get everyone's ideas if there's anything that you see from the legislative session that we should include in our legislative bills moving forward. You know, we're in that season now where we start asking, you know, what should we change in NRS to make our operations a little more effective? We do have some small minor language changes here in the division that we're pursuing. And then we're looking at some changes to the State Disaster Identification Coordinating Committee. I can't really get into the details of that yet because it's got to be vetted through the governor's office before you make them public. But I wanted to see if anybody has any things that they think they need to, as ideas for things we need to change or update to make it better for, especially how we work with their tribal nations. And I plan it, and my plan is to keep this as a standing item on each of our future agendas. So that way then we can, if there is an idea, then I can see if I can put that into one of our open BDRs. And once I can release our BDRs, we'll make sure we share them just like we did last session. So that way everybody gets a chance to look at them, because the more people looking at them to make sure that we're not missing something and doing something that hurts somebody is very important to me. So if anybody has any ideas on legislative issues they'd like to see addressed, or if you want to talk offline, I'm always available. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate the idea of keeping that on the agenda. Gives us a chance to kind of look over anything that's upcoming. Are there any questions for Chief Fogerson regarding this agenda item? Any comments? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. And actually at this time, I will close out agenda item number 12, and I will actually turn over the rest of the agenda to Chief Fogerson, beginning with agenda item number 13. Chief Fogerson, it's all yours, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. So item number 13, this is the nomination and selection of the INTEC tribal co-chair. This is a discussion, possible action. Pursuant to INTEC bylaws, the members will nominate and vote for a member to serve as the INTEC tribal co-chair. Harry and I talked about this in some exchanges a couple of weeks ago, that she didn't remember when last time we voted on a co-chair. And so we're trying to catch up on all those different pieces that might have gotten under the rug during COVID. So we wanted to put this on the agenda to make a nomination for the co-chair. I'm going to reserve the right to stay the other co-chair, but I'm looking for a tribal partner, a voting member, to be the co-chair with me. And I'll leave it up to the group, but I think you've had a pretty good demonstration of someone that is an outstanding co-chair that could continue on forever and ever and ever. But since I'm not a voting member, I can't not make that recommendation, but I would like to open it up for nominations for anybody that would like to put in a name for co-chair.
And also, Chief, if I can just interrupt real quick, just to let the members know that you can nominate yourself. I do remember that from our last meeting, and Ms. Laddick can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can nominate yourself.
Was that a nomination for yourself, Harriet?
Actually, no, sir. I wanted to give everyone else a chance to see if anyone, give someone else a chance.
Ross, I see you unmuted. You got a nomination for co-chair?
Yes, Harriet Parker, she seems to do a wonderful job, so I nominate her.
Okay, we have a nomination for Harriet Parker. Is there any other nominations on the floor from anybody?
This is Jackie Conway, and I second that nomination for Harriet Parker. She's been doing a really good job.
Would 100% agree with you, Jackie. So we have a first and a second from Ross and then from Jackie for Harriet Parker as co-chair. Any discussion on the matter or any additional names that would like to get thrown into the hat? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of Harriet Parker is continuing on as a co-chair, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposing that, will take you as a nomination for the next co-chair. You can say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Harriet. You get to continue on as co-chair. And I will turn the meeting back over to you.
Well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Ms. Conway. She had very big shoes to fill because she had the position before I did. So I learned from her, so I really appreciate that. Thank you to everyone. I appreciate it. I don't know where I'm at. So I guess that closes out agenda item number 13. And we'll move on to agenda item number 14, which is public comment. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the chair. Comments will not be restricted based on viewpoint. To provide testimony during this period of public comment via telephone, please call in anytime after 1:30 by dialing the number provided on the agenda. And when prompted, enter the meeting ID and participant ID also provided on the agenda. When asked to provide public comment, please press *6 to unmute your phone and *6 again when your comments are complete. As a reminder, please be advised that the YouTube stream will be 60 to 90 seconds behind the live meeting. If you would like to present public comment, please call in using the number provided on the agenda to hear the meeting live. Are there any public comments there in Carson City?
No. There isn't any in Carson City or on YouTube.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
There is somebody that has a question.
Yes, I see a hand raised from Fort McDermott. I couldn't see.
Good afternoon, everyone. Fergus Loffridge. I'm the health director here at Fort McDermott, and not the actual emergency manager for the tribe. And I appreciate the opportunity to set in on your meeting and hear what's going on with DEM. As Chief Fogerson knows, we go back many, many years and have crossed paths on many, many occasions. But in asking what DEM can do for the tribes, if there was some way that you could encourage, mandate, or whatever, the local emergency planning groups to include tribal representation in their discussions. Our tribes cover the entire state and are within those jurisdictions of the typical LEPC groups, and are often not invited to the table because they're viewed as standalone. So if there was something that DEM could help fostering a better relationship with emergency planning folks would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And that did kind of happen to us as well. Luckily, I had a contact that I'd met here in Clark County, and they had planned a drill of, I think it was a chlorine leak drill that they were doing, and the plume went right over the Paiute tribe colony. And when they saw the model, they realized they hadn't invited us to the table. So luckily, that contact that I had reached out to me and said, "Hey, we made a mistake. We didn't invite you guys, but we need you here." So I completely understand, and I will ask DEM if there's, as you mentioned, something that they could do to help us make sure that we get on those much needed committees.
Obviously, I can't comment on it, or Sam's gonna yell at me because it's a public comment and you're not supposed to take action upon it, but yes, it's on our list.
Good point. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. Any other comments? Okay, so let me close out the public comment, the agenda item number 14. Let me close that one out. Did Crystal ever make it back with us? No. So we're gonna table, what agenda was that? That was agenda item. Sorry, I'm going back. Looks like number 9. Yes, so we're gonna table agenda item number 9 for our next meeting as well. Okay. So I think we are all pretty much caught up on everything. So, I would like to get a motion for an adjournment, please.
It's Ross Rivera.
Tribe, I'll make that motion.
Ross Rivera, second.
Whipple, did you get both of them? I missed the first one. I apologize.
The first was Dwayne Masters.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other discussion that we need? Okay, all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Right, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. And until we meet again.